and I was ready for a new car. I was driving an Aerostar, one of those gray, nondescript, gray day, you can't see it, and that doesn't exist. I had 2 small girls at the time, and that stuff just didn't matter. But I was going through some life changes, ready for a new car. There's this red Acura. So I'm walking around this red Acura, and it's just gleaming. It's just absolutely beautiful. And I'm thinking, yeah, it's kind of fast, and it's sexy, and and those seats look really comfortable. And I'm looking at it, and I'm approached by a salesperson who's dressed in a black suit, white shirt, shiny hair, shiny shoes. He walks up and he says, "Hi, my name is Bill," hands me a card. He says, "What's going to take to get you to buy this car now?" I looked at the card. I looked at the car. I looked at the marquee of the dealership. And then I looked back to him and I said, "Not you, sir." and I handed the card back to him, and I got into my nondescript Aerostar, and I sped down the road from Jackson and Wagner. And at the corner of Jackson and Wagner, there is a Ford dealership. Now, I wasn't counting on a Ford, but I was really mad. So so I walked into the front desk, the service desk, and I said, "Hey, can I speak with somebody who knows the product but it's good with people?" They said, "You had a bad experience, didn't you?" I said, "Am I that transparent?" And so John shows up. He stands about this tall. He's dressed business casual, and he introduces himself, shakes my hand. He says, "Thanks for coming to the dealership." He says, "What brings you out here today?" I says, "Well, of all coincidences, I'm looking for a new car." And he says, "Well, great, you come to the right place." He says, "What are you driving now?" I says, "Well, I've got this Aerostar." He says, "It's a Ford product." He says, "What do you think of the Ford?" Which I thought was a loaded question, because it could have gone anywhere, right? But he really wanted to know. I thought that was a good sign. So he says, so tell me about the Ford. So what was your experience? And I said, "It was perfect. Nothing ever went wrong." He says, well, what brings you back here?" I says, "Well, I want to replace it with something, a little more fast, a little more sexy, a little more comfortable also. It's to Vantage." And so he says, "Well," and he pulls out a pad out of his pocket, and he starts, "Do you mind if I make a few notes?" I said, "Sure, absolutely." So he's making notes, and now we're walking along the hallway, and he's listening to me. So tell me, are you from the area? And he's making notes. I said, "Yeah, I just live right around the corner. I got a couple kids and what." Now we start talking about kids and family. He's just putting me at ease. And I know, of course, what he's doing. You're in sales. I'm in sales. We understand what these folks are doing. You know what? And when they do it, we really appreciate it, don't we?
Yeah, we do, yeah.
And we want to buy from that person immediately. Well, okay, whatever you're selling, I'm buying. Although I wasn't so quick, because you're going to spend a lot of money here, right? So he says, so tell me, what's important about your next vehicle? I says, "Well, geez, I do a lot of driving in the local area, and I want something a little faster. I want something a little more sporty, and I got this lower back thing going on, He says, "Okay, great." He says, "Tell me what's important about that." And he's just asking lots of questions, making no assumptions, just clarifying, paraphrasing, asking lots of questions. And he's kind of matching my tone of voice. He's matching the way I walk. And this is my brother. This is my long-lost brother from another life, and making these notes. And finally he stops at the end of the hallway. We're about 15 minutes into the presentation. Not into the presentation, but just into this conversation. And he stops. He says, "Daron," he says, "I have 2 vehicles on the lot I want to get your opinion on. Tell me what you think about these. And if these don't work for you, I have access to lots of cars everywhere in the city." He says, "But you know what? If I can't find the right car for you, I know everybody in town. I know all the dealers. I know all the salespeople. I know all the makes, all the models. If I can't satisfy you, I'll turn you over to somebody who can get you the car of your dreams." How's that sound? How does that sound? Let me think. He takes a personal interest in me, right? He's making notes. He's listening to me like I'm a lost, long brother. He's really taking a sincere interest in the fact that he's writing these notes. He's willing to walk away from the deal. I'm not losing you, buddy. Finally, I found somebody, a car salesperson, who knows how to make a connection, how to build bridges instead of walls. So a little bit later on, I went and got my personal information. I was just right around the corner. 2 hours later, I come back. It's about 5 o'clock. Not a very busy dealership at that point in time, even though it's the largest, the busiest dealership in Michigan, the biggest production dealership. And so I'm walking through all these cubicles, and there's the odd customer here, odd customer there, but not a whole lot of action. People eating sandwiches and talking with one another. And John's way in the back because he's the new guy in the block. So I get all the way back to John's cubicle, and there it is. It says John Obide right on his cubicle. But there's 5 people sitting in chairs in front of his cubicle. I go, they can't be for John because there's nobody in here. And I look over, and he's sitting with somebody. I says, "John, are all these folks waiting for you?" He says, "Yeah, it's going to move fast. Trust me, it will." I said, "Okay, all right." I thought, well, this is great. I'll sit down. I'll get to know these folks and find out a little bit more about John. Maybe I'll use this as a seminar, a story in a seminar somewhere, And so I started interviewing all the folks, and that's what you do, right? right? Okay, when you're in this business, you interview everybody. And come to find out, people had bought 2, 3, 4 cars. Mothers, fathers bought it. Sisters, brothers, family members, co-workers. Everybody followed John because they liked John the way they said he wasn't the least expensive. He was a little more expensive than other people, but God, he always took care of you. He always had peace of mind, and what's that worth, right? So I bought that car. I bought another car from him later on. In fact, that night when I got home, I called a friend, a close personal friend, and I said to her, she had just put some money down on a car. I said, go get your money back. You gotta buy from John. He's the guy you gotta buy from. And that's what happens when you have a connection, isn't it? You start to refer people. You want other people to do business with the people that you feel really good about. So I say, look into their eyes and not just their pocketbooks. Make sense?